Kahani, a story. What is a story? A weaving together of words and memories. We carry these stories in ourselves, in our bones, in our blood. Stories become part of us. They are us. And then we continue to write our own stories. Even when we no longer remain, we continue to live through our stories. What is the journey of a story? Does it shift, change, evolve? Who is telling these stories? Whose stories are these? I especially think of the stories that have been buried, the ones that have been erased. Our stories are our histories. Can you feel them? So where do we start? शुरू कहाँ से करें? Perhaps the very beginning? Adi, the untamed, the wild in nature and in ourselves, where we tap in the primal energy that exists in you, in me, in all of us. First, there was primal energy, and then came culture, conditioning, and religion. While people have always danced and created art, some say that the roots of dance lie in religion. Hindu deities are often presented as dancing. Art visualized religion. But then there were arts that questioned, that challenged. The art that was about beauty, humanity, sensuality. Over time, some of the art were more valued, and they were co-opted by the upper classes in the society, while other stories and truths were relegated to the margins. These arts, they talked about desire, pleasure, the uninhibited love. Yet, these stories exist. They thrived in different art forms. The statues in South Asia, in the temples of South Asia, they tell the stories even today. If these statues were come to life, what would be their stories? There is a lot of ancient that exists beyond borders. Somewhere, somehow, the shapes from the South Asian statues found its way, specifically the depiction of the Hindu goddess Kali, into the culture of hip hop. Hip hop, a culture that originated in the Bronx in New York City, became a global phenomenon. And two people with mixed heritages intersected with this culture, one in the Middle East, one in California. And when they came together, they discovered that there are a lot more commonalities in their journeys than there are differences. What is the journey our movement and music takes as we grow, evolve, converse, reroute? There is so much art created when we cross borders. Cultures intertwine. Histories transcend generations. But then there is also loss, displacement, forgetting, abandonment, erasure. The history of South Asia is inseparable from the history of partition. Batwara, the partition of India into Pakistan and Bangladesh, one of the greatest forced migrations of human history. When we cross borders, what do we hold on to? What do we leave behind or let go? What do we learn from our own histories? These stories are a lot more relevant today than ever.
सुना है हो भी चुका है फिराक़ ज़ुल्म तो नूर सुना है हो भी चुका है विसाल मंज़िल गाम कहाँ से आई निगार सबा किधर को गई बीच राहे सर रहे को कुछ खबर ही नहीं दाग उजाला ये शब गज़ीता सहर ये दाग उजाला ये शब गज़ीदा सहर वो इंतजार था जिसका ये वो सहर तो नहीं वो इंतजार था जिसका ये वो सहर तो नहीं चले चलो कि वो मंजिल अभी नहीं आई चले चलो कि वो मंजिल अभी बाबुल तेरे महला विचों सतरंगिया कबूतर बोले हाय बाबुल तेरे महला सतरंगिया कबूतर बोले हाय लोई बाबुल तेरे महला विचों तेरी लाडो परदेसण होई
दाग दाग उजाला ये शब कसीदा सहर ये दाग दाग उजाला ये शब कसीदा सहर वो शहर तो नहीं जिसकी आरज़ू लेके चले थे यार
घर, home, basera. Is it a place, a person, or a community? How do we find home within ourselves, in an adopted land, in a memory, in ancestry? What do we hold on to? What do we let go? When we find belonging, we write our own stories. We cultivate joy. Our stories are breath, blood, and bones. Our stories are who we are. Even when we no longer remain, we live through our stories.
So I noticed that your overarching theme was separation. And separation was merged in with how do you forge new identity. And being the daughter of somebody whose life was transformed by the partition of India, which kind of dates me, you know, I lived through my father's PTSD and scream because he went through the Bengal famine. And it's really impressive that you as the younger generation are reaching back into our history because our history is now here in the Bay Area as well. Thank you. And just as an English teacher, writer myself, I just want to inquire, how did you take those two, you know, historical, one is in 1940s and we're in 2024, and then you brought in hip hop, which made my heart sing, because why do we not work with black artists, you know? And you did it through your music. Could you talk to your process of how you kind of united these things?
I'm not sure if we united them or just allowed them to sort of exist in the same space. I think all the stories are stories we deeply care about, and they all kind of stem from our own experiences. Partition specifically, my grandmom, all my grandparents actually went through that. Many friends, family friends, a lot of us come from different parts of, like, Safat's from Bangladesh. I think we all have, a lot of us have displacement, and I think it's part of the history. And sorry, it's just like hard talking about that piece. It's also, I think it's all the more relevant now. I don't think it was a conscious choice, but with everything happening in the world, it just feels like, are we talking about 1947 or are we talking about 2024? And the idea was that even though this piece was specific to partition, the same thing is happening right now as we are here, right? So I think one of the things we wanted to say was, like, what do we learn from history? How do we do better? And are we really doing better? I don't think we are, really. So it's kind of tragic, honestly, that that piece, which is an echo from the past, is still so relevant today. It actually makes me really sad.
Yeah, I think, just adding to that, I think Ishika touched upon how all of us have different, you know, displacement experiences, whether it's like Akshay, like his parents are from like Uganda, and they have a very different, completely different track record. Safat being from Bangladesh and Qatar as well, and that whole journey, immigration journey, some of like Ishika and her parents and her grandparents as well. And I think when we were doing a lot of journaling before the first iteration of presenting that piece, we were just sharing where we, you know, stories of places that we come from or stories of our parents, and those were like some very common themes that we faced. And so we were trying to share, you know, different art, whether it's artifacts or things that, you know, we brought home. I think Akshay ended up using his like dad's briefcase, or, you know, just, or like Ishika's mom's jewelry, and it was started from a very real place, and hopefully that translated. I think sometimes you never know if it's going to translate, you know, for the audience, but at the very least for us, it was a very, you know, emotional experience. And so I think through just allowing that to exist, we kind of did our own form of generational healing, just by allowing that to, you know, exist in some way. So thank you for the question. That was a very insightful question. I don't know if anyone else has anything to say, or not, or new questions.
How about the music? Who composed, where the music came from? I absolutely love the South Indian statues coming, that piece. It's beautiful.
Thank you. I think it's a little mix of a bunch of things, a lot of research on, whether it's like using different languages or one of our music, I guess, producers, editors, designers, Akhil, he helped like edit a lot of our music in general and just add a lot of magic to it. We found a lot of stuff just through scrolling the web, or sometimes if it was like story specific, like the immigration piece that you saw, like Homelands, that one in particular was, based on a poem.
The original poem's written by Faiz Ahmed Faiz, who's a Pakistani poet, and we just found a modern rendition of that, which a Bengali artist had actually recorded, so we found that very interesting, and then our Akhil kind of composed the music for that, and also for the hip-hop piece. Those were original creations. Zaria is A.R. Rahman's compositions. It was, I think, drawing from different sources.
Very well put together.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Hi, I saw you guys perform Pehchan in New York, and I absolutely loved it, and that's why I wanted to come back. And I was curious, how do you guys decide what pieces to continue performing, and like which pieces to keep as you continue performing, and when to introduce new ones?
I think if we are still feeling it and it's still resonating, if we are still excited about performing it, if we are still excited to watch it, like we've seen the hip hop piece now many, many times, but every time, even in rehearsal, all of us just like can't help but clap along. So we just feel like, okay, clearly we all are just feeling that piece. So I think it's mostly that. Sometimes we're like, okay, I don't think we've come to a stage where we've kind of outgrown our work, but I guess it happens. I think some pieces evolve, like maybe the piece still exists, but it changes. Like the Homelands piece was very different in this space than what you probably saw in New York, because that was a much more intimate space. We really wanted to, I think we're very interested in not having a very proscenium kind of experience, so we wanted a little bit more immersive experience, which is why we were like, okay, let's have this aisle and let's go through the people, because we're not a huge fan of like the separation. Yeah, I don't really know if that answers your question, but I guess when we're not feeling the pieces, the dancers are not feeling it, that's when we know it's time to move on.
I think also for like specific themes, I think this one was a little bit more, we chose a few different themes as well for this one, and I think just the nature of the theme that we kind of chose for this show was a little different, so some things just generally didn't fit. I think after a little while, we'll also kind of be done with pieces in general, so, and yeah, I don't know. It sometimes the world can like exist where all of them can exist at the same time. Other times they're just like too far apart. I think sometimes it also depends on what choreographic mood we're in.
And I guess the journey of the show, like we don't want to put all our heavy pieces in the same show and leave like everyone with a heavy feeling. So it's balancing a little bit of light, a little bit of realness, a little bit of beauty, a little bit of thought. So, yeah.
I have a question. I think your dancers are extraordinary. Really, really brilliant. Are they not? Really. And I know that people come from different dance traditions, and I'd love to know, maybe even from some of the dancers, how did you find each other? How did you find Amit and Ishika?
Okay. I mean, I've been dancing with Amit since I was like 8, 10. Like, we've been dancing since we were children, like taking class Garba in like our friend's mom's garage. So that's been happening for a long, long time. I think Ishika was, I think Amit and my first contemporary teacher. We both had our own journeys with her since 08, 09, something around there. So we've been dancing in different capacities for a very long time. And I think in every different part of our life, it's also been different. We went through our Bollywood phases, we went through, more experimental phases, and then now this chapter has been beautiful. So I think I've been very lucky to dance with them for very long, so I'm very blessed. I'm very happy.
I can also speak to it. Is this good? Okay? I think also through social media and classes. Like I grew up in the Bay Area, but I didn't dance alongside either of them. And then when I was older, I found their pieces and their work online. I was like, oh, I want to take class. I want to learn. And then I learned that Ishami existed. So, yeah.
I have known Amit and Ishika since 2012, I think. I had joined the same Bollywood dance company as them when I was 12 years old, believe it or not. And then Amit was my first contemporary teacher. He was really my gateway drug to the art form, if I'm honest. And yeah. And then I went to college and I trained in Arizona, but the whole time I was there, I was keeping track with what they were doing, and I got really excited when they formed Ishami, so I came back and I immediately wanted to get involved.
I can add to that a little bit. I didn't grow up in the Bay Area. I grew up in Qatar, but I moved here in 2018, and the very first class I took was Amit's class here in a studio that is now closed. But that was my first class, and then sometimes I went to LA to take classes and stuff too, and then I would end up taking Amit's class in LA as well for some reason, and just stayed in touch. It was just what they do, Amit and Ish. I've never done any of those dance forms before. They've been open to letting me experiment a little bit. So that's one thing about Ishami is they let you bring. We all dance a little differently, but we fit together. We fit together pretty well, and they let that exist. It's not. They don't take your individuality out of the piece, and you would have noticed that in all the pieces. And some people look a little different, but it's that shines through because the pieces are made for that. The pieces are made to show our stories, and I really appreciate that about Ish, Amit, and just everybody in general.
I think they just allow us to exist exactly how we are.
Well, I think some of us didn't grow up here as well. I didn't grow up here either. I'm from the East Coast, and outside of social media, the world of dance can be also, just like the world is small. The world is small, and I knew people that knew people that knew people, and when I wanted to start dancing again, I heard about classes that Amit and Safat and Ishika were all putting together and started moving again, and I think they asked me if I wanted to start dancing. I didn't know if I could get back into dance. And so they really, overall, I think the cherry on top of what everyone's saying is like, they've really curated our group. We all feel included. We're all trying to work on each other's different styles. So we all come with our own styles, and then we keep working on each other and helping each other, learning different schools of dance, and that also makes it a real growing experience. So outside of just dancing together and performing, we're being creative, we're collaborating, we're really creating together, and that's something that's been really beautiful to kind of experience again in a world where usually it's very competitive and stressful, and one of the reasons why I stopped dancing for a while. So really, to them, to encourage dance and growth has been really beautiful.
Maybe like one or two more. I don't have my glasses.
Thank you so much. I think one of the strengths of Ishami has always been the heart and the love which has been put into the company, and that you can really see it through the stage. I wonder, in this past year, which arguably is a different year from your first year, right? And like events in the world and the way that affects the diversity of all the members, how do you think about keeping the company together? How do you think about like showing up for each of your people as individuals, even though they come from lots of different spaces, and even though like you could argue the world outside doesn't always encourage that? Like, how do you hold the company together? How do you keep the flame of love alive in the heart of it? Because I think you can still see it on stage, even in this moment, and that's really, really impressive.
I don't know if that comes from us I think we all collectively bring that. Like everybody is, even the dancers who could not perform today, they were very much like there for rehearsal to help us and share notes and send messages to be like, hey guys, have a great show. So I think it's just collectively, if one dancer is struggling, somebody else will be there to kind of help and be like, hey, you didn't, let me help you with this. It's never like, I think it's never like, how to, I don't know, it's always like people constantly uplifting each other and us, because sometimes we're like stressed out, like managing many things, and somebody will send a message and be like, just breathe, just rest, like we got this, it's fine, we'll handle this. So I think it's very much like a collective effort, and just as much we try to guide them, we also look to each other for guidance. So always being open to listening to what other people are feeling and saying. So I think that's where it comes from.
Just to add, I think two other people mentioned this. Amit and Ish do a really incredible job of creating space for us to exist the way that we are. And I think that's where a lot of that comes in. Like, you're used to being in a company that's rigid or be a certain way, look a certain way, and there's, benefit in that kind of structure. But having the freedom to say, come in the style that you have, what is your body willing to do? What is your age allowing you to do? Where your injuries allowing you to do? Okay, you want to share a story, they'll create space for that story to exist. I've never seen that before. Like, actually create the space. Say, you want to tell your story? We can make room in this show for it. Another one, maybe the show is evolving. Okay, there's another story you want to tell. That kind of conversation, that kind of intention is beautiful, rare, and I think that is something really special. And I've not seen that before, and I see how intentional you guys are in obviously the work that you, but in the community and the space that you're creating. And I think a lot of that comes from like their heart and just their intention behind really what they're doing.
I thought I had this loud voice. Bengalis. Only because I'm so focused on process right now, I'm asking you this. Did you at some point, because you guys are searching identity, identity as an immigrant here, and then our identities when we go back to India, with our extended families there. Do you also see this dance company as a think tank where you process? Because, we don't have an artistic space. We are scientists and doctors and lawyers, and God bless them. But where is our art? I mean, classical dances are beautiful, but unless there's a new twist to it, it's the 87th Bharatanatyam dance performance you're going to this season, So was it conscious, or was an evolution? The processing of all, because you guys are pretty academic too, right? I feel that in the way you handle your ideas. Did you bring some of that school work, that reading? And because, I've been to many shows. This is one show that 5 times they were reading books, right? Indian nerd.
Thank you for that. I think Ishika and I actually first bonded over reading books. That was kind of one of our big friendship moments. But I think for us, one of the things that we also spoke about when we were doing, even before we started the company, and we used to do a lot of whether it's socially conscious work or just a lot more, whether it's academic or research driven or just story driven work. And I think one of the things that we also felt was sometimes within literature spaces and music and all of that, there's so many there are many academic spaces when it came to South Asian literature and music and all of that, but when it came to dance, sometimes if you were in the classical field, there's a different level of understanding and rigor that comes to appreciating those forms, or there are more commercial forms or folk forms that are not necessarily maybe as depthful. And I think for us, within all of our styles being so unique and different, I think we were consciously trying to see, can we invite more deeper thought and without having to be limited by different styles, but using all of what we have to like just tell different stories through movement. And I think that was like, that is a conscious goal and I guess direction for us wanting to explore some of those deeper conversations. So hopefully it goes into more like, you know, it goes more deeper than it does wide, but yeah, I think that is still very much part of our future. I'm glad that it like came across that way though. That makes me happy, yeah. And we do use the book thing a lot. Yeah.
On that note, I think we should wrap up. And
Yeah.
thank you
I
so
think we
much for
should.
being here.
Standing, oh, where's the standing ovation for them? They were